Imagine waking up tomorrow with only $100 to your name. Every decision you make, what to eat, whether to fix your broken phone, if you can afford the bus to work, suddenly becomes a calculation. Your mind races, your heart pounds. And here's the disturbing part. Scientists have discovered that this feeling, this scarcity, literally rewires your brain. It makes you dumber. It steals your IQ points, and it's happening to millions of people right now, creating a poverty trap so powerful that intelligence and willpower become almost irrelevant. But scarcity isn't just about money. It's about time. It's about connection. It's about love. And once you understand how this invisible parasite operates, you'll never look at your decisions or the world the same way again. By the end of this video, you'll discover why smart people make catastrophic financial mistakes, why poverty creates poverty, and most importantly, how to recognize when scarcity has infected your own mind. Because here's the truth, scarcity doesn't just affect the poor, it affects anyone who feels they don't have enough of something they desperately need. This is the story of the mind's most dangerous enemy. A story that spans from sugarcane fields in India to Wall Street trading floors, from refugee camps to Silicon Valley offices. It's a story about how your brain betrays you in ways you never imagined. And it starts with a simple cognitive test that revealed one of the most important discoveries in behavioral economics. In 2013, economists Senthil Mullainathan from Harvard and Eldar Shafir from Princeton conducted an experiment that would revolutionize our understanding of poverty. They traveled to 464 sugarcane farms in rural Tamil Nadu, India, to study people whose income arrives once per year, right after harvest. For several months before harvest, these farmers are poor, often borrowing money at high interest rates just to eat. The day after harvest, the same people are relatively wealthy, paying off debts and making purchases they'd deferred for months. Same people, same intelligence, same education, same environment. The only difference? Money. The researchers gave these farmers a series of sophisticated cognitive tests, the kind that measure fluid intelligence, problem-solving ability, logical reasoning, executive function, and impulse control. These weren't simple tests. They included Raven's progressive matrices, a gold standard measure of fluid intelligence that's considered largely independent of education and culture. They also used computerized tests measuring cognitive control and attention. They tested each farmer twice, once before harvest when money was scarce and stress was high, and once after harvest when money was abundant and stress was reduced. The results were shocking. Before harvest, when farmers were worried about feeding their families and managing debt, their cognitive performance dropped by the equivalent of 13 or 14 IQ points. To put that in perspective, that's larger than the cognitive impact of losing an entire night of sleep. It's roughly the difference between being classified as average intelligence and superior intelligence, or between average and below average. The same farmers, just a few months later with money in their pockets, performed significantly better on identical tests. Their working memory improved, their impulse control strengthened, their ability to solve complex problems expanded. It was as if harvest didn't just bring money, it brought back their full intellectual capacity. Let that sink in. Poverty wasn't just correlated with lower cognitive function, as many previous studies had shown. Poverty was causing it. The stress of scarcity was literally eating away at their mental bandwidth in real time, and it was reversible when the scarcity ended. But here's where it gets even more disturbing. These farmers knew they performed worse when poor. They knew they made bad decisions during the lean months. They could feel their minds working differently, feel themselves being more impulsive, more short-sighted, more anxious, but they couldn't stop it. The scarcity had hijacked their brains at a level below conscious awareness, below the reach of willpower or determination.
Mullainathan and Shafir called this phenomenon the bandwidth tax. Your brain has a limited amount of mental bandwidth. Think of it like RAM in a computer or the processing power of your phone. You're constantly running multiple mental processes, paying attention to your surroundings, regulating your emotions, making decisions, inhibiting impulses, remembering things, planning for the future. When scarcity strikes, whether it's lack of money, time, food, or anything else you desperately need, your brain allocates enormous resources to managing that scarcity. It runs constant background calculations. Can I afford this? What if this happens? How will I make it through the week? If I spend money on X, will I have enough for Y? These calculations happen automatically and continuously, consuming mental bandwidth you need for everything else. It's like trying to run complex software on a computer while a massive program monopolizes 50% of your processing power in the background. Everything else slows down. You have less capacity for self-control, less capacity for long-term planning, less capacity for learning new skills or recognizing opportunities, less capacity for being a good parent, a good partner, a good employee. You're not stupid or lazy. You're operating with a severe cognitive handicap imposed by scarcity itself. One participant in their research described it perfectly. It's like I'm watching myself make bad decisions and I can't stop myself. I know I shouldn't buy the lottery ticket. I know I should save the money, but my hand reaches for it anyway. This explains one of the cruelest paradoxes of poverty. Poor people often pay more for the same goods and services than wealthy people do. They overdraft their bank accounts and pay $35 fees. They buy smaller quantities of food at higher per-unit prices because they can't afford the upfront cost of bulk purchases. They rent furniture and appliances instead of buying them outright, paying 3 times the retail price over time. They pay utility reconnection fees because they had to choose between electricity and food. These aren't moral failures or signs of financial illiteracy. These are the predictable outcomes of operating with diminished cognitive bandwidth. When your mental resources are consumed by scarcity, you make mistakes, you miss opportunities. You focus on putting out today's fire while tomorrow's house burns down. Let's put this in perspective. Researchers estimate that chronic financial stress costs the equivalent of 13-14 IQ points. For context, the average IQ is 100 with a standard deviation of 15. This means scarcity can push someone from the 50th percentile to the 25th percentile in cognitive performance. That's the difference between navigating life with reasonable problem-solving ability and struggling with tasks that require sustained attention and complex reasoning. Now consider this. There are approximately 37 million Americans living in poverty. If each is operating at a 13-point cognitive deficit due to scarcity, that's like having 37 million people trying to navigate life, work, parenting, and financial decisions with a significant handicap. And we wonder why poverty persists across generations. But here's what makes this truly insidious. This cognitive impairment is invisible. There's no external marker, no way to see it. When a wealthy person makes a financial mistake, we assume they had a momentary lapse in judgment. When a poor person makes the same mistake, we assume it's a character flaw, a lack of responsibility, a moral failing. But wait, if scarcity reduces our intelligence this dramatically, how do we explain the countless stories of people who escaped poverty and became wildly successful? How did Oprah Winfrey go from poverty to billionaire? How did Howard Schultz grow up in housing projects and build Starbucks? How did they overcome the bandwidth tax? We'll return to this critical question later, but first you need to understand just how deep the scarcity parasite burrows into your brain and how it manifests in ways you've never considered. The tunnel vision effect. Scarcity doesn't just consume mental bandwidth, It fundamentally changes how you perceive reality itself. Mullainathan and Shafir call this tunneling. When you're focused intensely on what you lack, you develop tunnel vision. Everything outside that tunnel becomes invisible, even when those things could solve your problems. Here's a real example from their research. A single mother named Deborah works 2 jobs, retail during the day, cleaning offices at night, to support her 3 children. She's constantly calculating money, how to pay rent, buy groceries, keep the lights on, afford her daughter's asthma medication. One day, her employer announces a free job training program in computer skills that could lead to a promotion and a 40% raise. The program meets Tuesday evenings for 8 weeks. Deborah doesn't sign up. Her coworker asks why. Deborah looks confused. "What program?" she asks. Her coworker explains again. Deborah has no memory of the announcement, even though she was in the room when it was made. She literally didn't process the information. Her mind was so consumed by immediate financial survival that long-term opportunities became invisible. She was in the tunnel, and the job training existed outside it. The cruel irony is that the things outside the tunnel, job training, preventative health care, retirement savings, education, relationship building, are often the very things that could permanently solve scarcity. But the tunnel makes them disappear from your field of vision. Researchers demonstrated this with an elegant experiment. They gave people a word search puzzle where they had to find words hidden in a grid of letters. One group was told they had limited time, time scarcity. Another had abundant time, time slack. The scarcity group found more words per minute. They focused intensely and efficiently. But they also missed obvious patterns and shortcuts that could have helped them find words faster. They tunneled so hard on individual words that they couldn't see the bigger picture. The slack group, working more casually, noticed these patterns and ultimately performed better overall. This is what scarcity does. It makes you efficient at the wrong things. You become very good at managing immediate crises while becoming blind to the strategies that could prevent those crises in the first place. Now we can understand the poverty trap at a cognitive level. It's not just that poor people lack money, it's that poverty creates the conditions that make escaping poverty nearly impossible. When you're poor, you tunnel on immediate survival. This prevents you from seeing or pursuing opportunities that require upfront investment of time, money, or attention. You can't afford the work boots that would last 5 years, so you buy cheap boots that fall apart in 6 months. You can't afford the car repair, so you risk driving with the problem until it becomes catastrophic. You can't take the unpaid internship that would launch your career. You can't move to where the jobs are. You can't afford childcare to attend night school. Each decision is individually rational given your constraints, but collectively they keep you trapped. And the bandwidth tax ensures you don't have the cognitive resources to see the pattern or strategize your way out. One woman described her experience. "I knew education was my way out. Everyone told me to go to community college, but I was working full-time, taking care of my mom who had dementia and raising my daughter alone. Where was I supposed to find time to study? Where was I supposed to find energy after working 8 hours and then dealing with my mom's sundowning? I wasn't choosing poverty, I was drowning in it." But remember, scarcity isn't limited to money. In fact, some of the most devastating forms of scarcity affect people who have never worried about their next meal. And understanding these other forms will reveal something shocking about how your own mind might be betraying you right now. Let's talk about something that probably affects you right now, regardless of your financial situation: time scarcity. If you constantly feel like you don't have enough time, if you're always rushing, always behind, always saying, "I'm so busy,"
you're experiencing the same cognitive effects as financial poverty. A comprehensive Harvard Business School study tracked busy professionals who consistently felt time-starved. These were high-achieving individuals, lawyers, consultants, executives, doctors, people at the top of their fields. Researchers measured their cognitive performance, decision quality, and life satisfaction over several months. The results were striking. These professionals exhibited the same tunneling behavior as financially poor individuals. They made demonstrably worse decisions. They neglected important relationships. They failed to see opportunities for efficiency improvements that were obvious to outside observers. When reminded of their time pressures before taking cognitive tests, they performed worse. The same effect seen in financially poor people. One executive, Sarah, described her experience in a way that perfectly illustrates tunneling. I was working 80-hour weeks, thinking I was being incredibly productive. In reality, I was just thrashing. I'd spend an entire day answering emails instead of thinking strategically about our business direction. I'd sit in meetings that didn't need me while missing my daughter's soccer games. I couldn't see that I was trading $1,000 problems for $50 problems because the $50 problems felt more urgent. They were in my tunnel. Here's what's fascinating. Sarah was earning $400,000 per year. She could have hired assistants, delegated work, or even taken a less demanding job. But time scarcity had created the same cognitive impairment as poverty. She couldn't see solutions outside her tunnel, even though they were obvious to everyone else. Time scarcity and financial scarcity often create a deadly feedback loop, and understanding this loop explains why so many people stay trapped despite working incredibly hard. Consider Maria, a home health aide. She works 50 hours a week caring for elderly patients at $15 an hour. After taxes, she takes home about $2,500 per month. Her rent is $1,200. Her car payment, she needs the car to reach her clients, is $300. Insurance, gas, phone, utilities, and food consume the rest. She has no savings. One week, her car's check engine light comes on. A mechanic says she needs a $600 repair. She doesn't have $600. She could try to save for it, but that would take months, and she needs the car to work, so she puts it on a credit card at 22% APR. Now she has a monthly credit card payment. To afford it, she picks up extra shifts, working 60 hours per week. The extra hours means she's exhausted. She starts missing appointments because she oversleeps. Her boss warns her. Stressed about losing her job, she works even more hours. She has no time to look for better paying jobs. She has no time to learn new skills. She has no time to take care of her health, so a minor medical issue becomes serious, generating emergency room bills she can't afford. Each step is rational given her constraints, but the combination of time scarcity and financial scarcity creates a trap where working harder makes things worse. She's spending time to avoid financial disaster, while the time expenditure creates new financial disasters. She's tunneling so hard on survival that escape becomes impossible to see, let alone achieve.
Now, let's discuss a form of scarcity that's rarely recognized, but might be the most painful of all: social scarcity, or loneliness. Research shows that chronic loneliness, the persistent feeling that you lack meaningful social connections, produces the same cognitive impairments as financial poverty. Dr. John Cacioppo at the University of Chicago spent decades studying loneliness. His research revealed that chronically lonely people perform worse on cognitive tests measuring executive function. They make worse decisions, particularly about social situations. They develop tunnel vision focused on their social isolation. And most cruelly, they become worse at the very skills they need to escape loneliness. Here's how it works. Loneliness triggers the same ancient neural alarm systems as physical danger. Your brain interprets social isolation as a threat to survival, which for most of human history it was. Being alone meant being vulnerable to predators, unable to hunt large game, unable to defend resources. This threat response consumes mental bandwidth, just like financial or time scarcity. But it also changes your social perception. Lonely people begin to interpret neutral social cues as negative. An ambiguous facial expression looks hostile. A friend's busy schedule feels like rejection. This hypervigilance to social threat makes social interactions more stressful, which makes lonely people more anxious and withdrawn, which increases their loneliness. A university student named James described this experience. I was desperately lonely my first year of college, but whenever someone invited me to something, I'd find an excuse not to go. I'd convince myself they didn't really want me there, they were just being polite. Or I'd go and then be so anxious that I'd be weird and awkward, confirming my belief that people didn't like me. It's like my brain was sabotaging the very connections I needed. I could see myself doing it, but I felt powerless to stop. This is the scarcity parasite at work. It doesn't just make you aware of what you lack, it actively prevents you from obtaining it by consuming the mental bandwidth you need to navigate social situations effectively. Here's where it gets truly disturbing. Different scarcities interact and amplify each other. Financial scarcity creates time scarcity, working multiple jobs. Time scarcity creates social scarcity, no time for relationships. Social scarcity creates meaning scarcity, feeling disconnected and purposeless. Each scarcity consumes bandwidth and creates tunneling, making it harder to address any of the others. A comprehensive study following 1,000 individuals over 10 years found that people experiencing multiple simultaneous scarcities showed dramatically worse outcomes than those experiencing a single scarcity, even a severe one. Someone experiencing both financial and social scarcity had worse health outcomes, higher rates of depression, and lower lifetime earnings than someone experiencing severe financial scarcity alone. The researchers described it as a scarcity cascade, one scarcity flowing into and amplifying others until the combined cognitive load becomes overwhelming.
Now we're going to examine how scarcity created one of the largest financial disasters in human history. The 2008 financial crisis wasn't just about greedy bankers, predatory lending, or complex financial instruments. At its core, it was about the scarcity mindset multiplied across millions of people simultaneously, creating systemic risk that nearly collapsed the global economy. In the early 2000s, housing prices were rising rapidly across the United States, 10%, 15%, sometimes 20% per year in hot markets. Millions of families who had felt locked out of home ownership, experiencing scarcity of one of life's most fundamental needs and most reliable paths to building wealth, suddenly had access to mortgages they previously couldn't qualify for. These were called subprime mortgages, loans given to borrowers with poor credit, little savings, or income that was difficult to verify. Here's where the scarcity mindset becomes crucial. Many families who took these mortgages were operating under severe financial scarcity. They were tunneling. The immediate opportunity to own a home, to escape the rent treadmill, to build equity, to give their children stability, to achieve the American dream, this consumed their mental bandwidth entirely. What they couldn't process, what existed outside their tunnel, were the risks: adjustable interest rates that would balloon after 2 or 3 years, negative amortization where payments didn't even cover interest, the possibility that home prices could fall, the long-term sustainability of mortgage payments that consumed 50% or more of their income, prepayment penalties that would trap them in bad loans, the fine print that revealed their low initial payments would eventually double or triple. Let me share one family story that illustrates this perfectly.
Carlos and Maria were working-class immigrants in Southern California. They were paying $1,400 per month to rent a small two-bedroom apartment. They had 3 children sharing one bedroom. Carlos worked in construction, Maria in retail. Together, they made about $45,000 per year. A mortgage broker, let's call him Steve, called them. He'd gotten their information from a lead list. Steve told them he could get them into a beautiful 3-bedroom house for just $1,200 per month, less than their rent. The house was in a decent neighborhood with good schools. The mortgage was $280,000 with no down payment required. There was a catch. The loan had an adjustable rate that would jump from $1,200 to $2,400 after 2 years, but Steve assured them this wasn't a problem. Home values were rising 15% per year. In 2 years, their house would be worth $360,000. They could refinance into a traditional 30-year fixed mortgage and actually lower their payment because they'd have $80,000 in equity. Carlos and Maria knew the numbers were tight. They knew the rate adjustment was risky, but here's what they were thinking. They were throwing away $1,400 per month in rent, building no equity. Their kids needed space. The schools were better in this neighborhood. Their daughter was gifted, could get a scholarship someday. Housing prices only went up. Everyone knew that. Their parents had told them that buying a home was the most important financial decision they'd ever make. Carlos later said, "We heard about the rate adjustment, but we were so focused on getting out of that apartment, on giving our kids their own rooms, on building equity instead of throwing money away on rent. We convinced ourselves we'd figure it out. We were hard workers, we'd get raises, we could pick up extra hours if needed. The future problem felt abstract. The current solution felt real and right in front of us." This is textbook tunneling. This is the bandwidth tax, making intelligent, hard-working people make catastrophic decisions. Carlos and Maria weren't stupid or irresponsible. They were operating with impaired cognitive function due to scarcity. What happened? Housing prices didn't keep rising. In 2007, they started falling. When Carlos and Maria's rate adjusted in 2008, their payment jumped to $2,400. They couldn't afford it. They tried to refinance, but their house was now worth less than they owed. They were underwater. Banks wouldn't refinance underwater mortgages. They tried to sell, but no one was buying. Within 6 months, they were in foreclosure. They lost the house, destroyed their credit, and had to move to a cheaper apartment in a worse neighborhood than where they'd started. Now multiply this story by 7 million families. That's how many homes entered foreclosure between 2007 and 2010. Most of these families weren't speculators or con artists. They were people experiencing scarcity, making decisions while their cognitive function was impaired by that same scarcity.
But there's another side to this story that reveals something even darker about how scarcity is exploited. Mortgage brokers and lenders specifically targeted people experiencing financial scarcity because they knew these people would focus on the immediate benefit and miss the long-term risks. Internal documents from major lenders revealed deliberate strategies to market to people experiencing financial stress. They called them subprime borrowers, but what they really meant was people whose judgment is impaired by scarcity. One training manual for mortgage brokers, revealed during subsequent litigation, literally coached brokers on how to exploit tunneling. Quote, "Focus the conversation on monthly payment, not total cost. Focus on immediate benefits, home ownership, tax deductions, building equity. If they ask about rate adjustments, emphasize that rates might go down, not up. Assure them they can refinance before rates adjust. Create urgency. Rates are rising. Inventory is low. This opportunity won't last." This wasn't just unethical. It was systematically exploiting a cognitive vulnerability created by scarcity. When you're in the tunnel, you can't evaluate long-term risks effectively. You grab at the immediate solution. Predatory lenders understood this intuitively and built business models around it. The result?
Approximately $2 trillion in wealth evaporated from American households. Minority communities, which had been historically excluded from home ownership and were therefore experiencing more acute housing scarcity, were disproportionately targeted and lost decades of accumulated wealth. The unemployment rate doubled. 9 million people lost their jobs. The entire global financial system nearly collapsed, requiring $700 billion in government bailouts. All of this rooted in a simple cognitive principle: scarcity impairs judgment, and that impaired judgment can be exploited at scale. Let's examine another scarcity trap that's even vicious and more common: payday loans. These short-term, high-interest loans target people experiencing acute financial scarcity. A typical payday loan charges 400% annual interest, sometimes more. In some states, rates exceed 600%. Here's how the trap works. Someone, let's call her Jennifer, is short $300 for rent due on Monday. She works full-time at $12 an hour, but had unexpected car repairs. She has no savings. She's already borrowed from family. Her credit is too poor for a credit card or bank loan. A payday lender offers to loan her $300 if she repays $345 on her next payday in 2 weeks. That's $45 in fees for a 2-week loan on $300, a 15% fee, or about 400% annualized. It's an astronomical interest rate by any measure. But in the moment of acute scarcity, with eviction looming, it feels like salvation. Jennifer can't see any alternative. She's in the tunnel. Payday comes. Jennifer repays the $345, but now she's $345 shorter than she expected to be. She still has to pay all her other bills: electricity, car insurance, phone, food. She's short again. So she takes out another payday loan to cover the gap, and another, and another. This isn't hypothetical, it's the norm. Research from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau found that the average payday loan customer takes out 9 loans per year, paying hundreds or thousands of dollars for fees for what was originally a small shortfall. About 25% of borrowers take out 20 or more loans per year, essentially paying monthly fees to roll over the same debt indefinitely. One borrower, Michael, described his experience. Quote, "I took out my first payday loan for $500 to fix my car so I could get to work. Over the next 2 years, I paid more than $4,000 in fees on that original $500. I knew I was getting ripped off. Everyone told me to stop, but what else could I do? If I didn't pay the loan back, they'd hit me with even more fees and potentially sue me. If I didn't have the car, I'd lose my job. I felt like I had a gun to my head every 2 weeks." End quote. Researchers studying payday loans confirmed that borrowers understood they were paying huge interest rates. They knew the loans were bad deals in the abstract, but in the moment of scarcity, the tunnel made alternatives invisible. The immediate need consumed all mental bandwidth. What's particularly insidious is that payday lenders deliberately structure their business model around creating repeat borrowers. They don't make money from people who borrow once and repay. They make money from people who get trapped in the cycle. Internal documents from payday lenders show they explicitly planned for 75 to 80% of revenue to come from borrowers taking out 10 or more loans per year. This is financial predation enabled by cognitive impairment from scarcity.
Let's follow the payday loan trap to its logical conclusion through one real person's experience. Rachel was a certified nursing assistant making $32,000 per year. She had $8,000 in credit card debt and was managing it reasonably well with minimum payments. Then her transmission died. The repair was $2,500. She didn't have it. She took out a payday loan for $500 to cover the initial diagnostic and down payment. She charged the rest to credit cards, maxing them out. Now she had the payday loan to repay. She rolled it over, paying fees. She missed a credit card payment because she paid the payday loan.
Late fees and penalty interest rates kicked in on her credit cards. Her credit score dropped. Her car insurance rate increased. Insurers use credit scores. She got more payday loans to cover the gaps. Within 6 months, she was juggling 3 payday loans simultaneously. All her credit cards were maxed at penalty interest rates, and she was behind on utilities. Within a year, she filed for bankruptcy. Her wages were garnished for debts. She lost her apartment and moved in with her sister. The bankruptcy made it harder to find new jobs. Employers checked credit. She was trapped in a cycle that started with a single car repair. At every decision point, Rachel made rational choices given her constraints, but the scarcity had impaired her ability to see the cascade coming or to find alternative paths. So if scarcity is this powerful, this destructive, how does anyone escape? How do people break free from poverty, from time scarcity, from loneliness? The answer isn't what you think, and it has profound implications for how we need to restructure our entire approach to personal finance, career planning, and social welfare. The slack theory. Here's the key insight that changes everything. You cannot think your way out of scarcity while you're in it. The scarcity itself prevents the clear thinking you need to escape. Willpower doesn't work. Intelligence doesn't work. Working harder often makes things worse. What breaks the cycle? Slack. Slack is the opposite of scarcity. It's having more of something than you immediately need. A financial buffer, extra time, a strong social network, margin for error. When you have slack, you can see beyond the tunnel. You can make long-term plans. You can invest in things that don't pay off immediately, but compound over time. Research from the University of California at Berkeley shows that giving people even small amounts of slack can break scarcity traps. When poor families received a modest universal basic income in pilot programs, enough to reduce their immediate financial stress without eliminating poverty, their cognitive performance measurably improved. They made better decisions. They invested more in education and skills. They took better care of their health. Their children performed better in school. Domestic violence decreased. Mental health improved. This wasn't because the money made them smarter or more moral. It's because the reduction in scarcity freed up mental bandwidth.
One of the most rigorous studies of slack came from Kenya. Researchers worked with the charity Give Directly to give poor families a one-time cash transfer of about $1,000, roughly a year's income for these families. No strings attached, no requirements for how to spend it, just cash. 9 years later, researchers tracked down 1,500 of these families to see what happened. The results were remarkable. Recipients were earning 40% more than similar families who hadn't received the transfer. Their children were healthier and attended school more regularly. They owned more livestock. Their homes were in better condition. They reported lower stress and better mental health. The one-time injection of slack had created a permanent escape from the poverty trap for many families. But here's the fascinating part. The mechanism wasn't that they invested the money brilliantly or started successful businesses, though some did. When researchers analyzed what happened in detail, they found that most families spent significant portions on immediate needs: food, clothing, home repairs, paying off high-interest debt. What the slack did was give them enough mental bandwidth to see opportunities, to make slightly better decisions, to escape the tunnel vision that had kept them trapped. One recipient explained, "Before the money, I was always thinking about today, how to feed my children today, how to pay the rent this week. After the money, I could think about next month, next year. I could see possibilities I'd been blind to before." With their bandwidth freed, they noticed that their neighbor was looking for help with his business. They had time to learn a new skill. They could afford to buy seeds and plant a larger crop. They could send their children to school instead of having them work. Each small improvement compounded over time.
Now we're going to blow your mind. Some of the wealthiest, most privileged people in the world experience severe scarcity, and it's destroying their lives just as effectively as financial poverty destroys the lives of the poor. In Silicon Valley, highly paid tech workers routinely burn out, destroy their relationships, neglect their health, and make poor life decisions, all because of self-imposed time scarcity. A software engineer named Jessica, earning $300,000 per year at a major tech company, described her experience. "I was working 70-hour weeks minimum, constantly stressed, snapping at my partner, gaining weight, not seeing friends. I kept telling myself it was temporary, just until the next product launch. But there was always another launch, another crisis, another all-hands-on-deck moment. I had more money than my parents made in their entire lives combined, but I felt poorer than ever. Not financially poor, but poor in time, in energy, in joy, in meaning. I was wealthy on paper and bankrupted in every way that mattered." When researchers analyzed Jessica's situation, they found she was experiencing the identical cognitive patterns as financial poverty: tunneling, focused only on immediate work demands, bandwidth tax, her stress consuming mental resources, and inability to see solutions outside the tunnel. She had enough money to quit, take 6 months off, and find a better job, but she couldn't see this option. This is artificial scarcity. Jessica had objectively abundant resources, but her mind had created a scarcity of time that was just as cognitively damaging as lacking money. The tunnel vision was identical to financial poverty, and the outcomes were equally destructive: destroyed relationships, health problems, and a deep sense that life was slipping away. Here's the disturbing truth that researchers are now documenting. Humans seem psychologically wired to create scarcity even in abundance. When we eliminate one scarcity, we often create another. Financial abundance creates time scarcity. Time abundance creates meaning scarcity. Solving practical problems create existential problems. Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill, our tendency to return to a baseline level of happiness irrespective of positive or negative changes in circumstances. But viewed through the scarcity lens, it's something more specific. It's our tendency to create new scarcities as fast as we solve old ones. Consider this progression, which researchers have documented across cultures and income levels. When you're struggling financially, you desperately want financial security. You think, if I just had enough money to not worry about rent and food, I'd be happy. Then you achieve financial security. Initially, there's relief, but soon a new scarcity emerges. You desperately want financial independence, the freedom to quit your job if you want. When you achieve financial independence, another scarcity emerges. You desperately want significance, to matter, to make an impact. Money is no longer meaningful. When you achieve significance, maybe you've built a successful business or become respected in your field, you desperately want deeper spiritual connection or legacy. What will outlast you? What really matters? Each stage brings a new scarcity. Each scarcity creates tunneling and bandwidth taxes. The content changes, but the cognitive pattern remains.
Let me share a story that perfectly illustrates this. Robert, not his real name, is a billionaire who sold his tech company for $3.2 billion. He agreed to be interviewed by researchers studying wealth and happiness. Robert described his life after the sale. "I thought selling the company would solve everything. I'd have unlimited freedom, unlimited options. I could do whatever I wanted, but I became paralyzed. Every day I'd wake up and think I could do anything today. I could start another company, travel anywhere, learn anything, help anyone. The possibilities were endless, and that endlessness was terrifying. I had no structure, no constraints forcing me to choose." He continued, "I spent 20 years building wealth, convinced that once I had enough money, I'd be happy and could focus on what really mattered. Then I had the money, and I felt even more trapped than before.
Now I was in a scarcity of time and meaning. I had all this wealth and no clear purpose for it. Every charity asked me for money. Every entrepreneur wanted me to invest. Every cause needed my attention. I couldn't say yes to everything, so I was constantly saying no, constantly feeling like I was failing to use my resources properly. Robert was experiencing meaning scarcity, and it created the same cognitive impairments as financial poverty. He tunneled on trying to find purpose. He made poor decisions about relationships because he was obsessed with maximizing impact. He couldn't see that his frantic search for meaning was itself the problem. He'd traded one tunnel for another. Here's where we encounter a crucial paradox. Becoming aware of scarcity thinking can sometimes make it worse. Remember, awareness alone isn't enough. The Indian sugarcane farmer who knows he's cognitively impaired by poverty doesn't suddenly gain back his IQ points just from knowing. The single mother who understands tunneling still can't see outside the tunnel while she's in it. Knowledge of the problem doesn't automatically provide the solution. But awareness does create something valuable. It creates humility about your own decision-making when you're experiencing scarcity. It helps you recognize when the parasite has infected your thinking. One recovering gambling addict named Thomas explained, "Once I understood scarcity thinking, I could recognize it when it started. I'd be at the casino, down $500, and I'd feel that desperate tunnel vision. Just one more bet. I'm due for a win. I can win it back. I can't leave down this much." Before I learned about scarcity, I thought that feeling was hope or determination or belief in myself. Now I recognize it as the parasite. It doesn't stop the feeling. The cognitive impairment is still there, but it helps me override it just enough to walk away. This is key. Awareness doesn't eliminate the scarcity mindset, but it can give you just enough metacognitive distance to catch yourself and implement predetermined strategies. The real solution isn't trying to think differently in moments of scarcity. Your brain is physically incapable of optimal thinking when scarcity is active. The solution is building systems that prevent scarcity from occurring in the first place, or that make good decisions automatic when scarcity strikes. Here's how this works in practice across different domains. Financial anti-scarcity systems. Automatic savings transfers that happen the day you get paid before you see the money. This creates slack before scarcity consciousness kicks in. Research shows people who automate savings save 2 to 3 times more than people who manually transfer money, even when both groups have identical income and expenses. Emergency funds of 3 to 6 months' expenses. This isn't just financial advice, it's a cognitive buffer. When unexpected expenses arise, you exit the scarcity tunnel. You can make rational decisions instead of desperate ones. Avoiding environments that trigger financial scarcity thinking. If shopping when stressed makes you overspend, don't shop when stressed. If certain friends create pressure to spend, limit time with them. Your environment shapes your cognitive state.
Time, anti-scarcity systems. Protecting specific time blocks for important but not urgent activities before your calendar fills up. Book time for strategic thinking, exercise, relationships, and rest just as rigorously as you book meetings. Learning to say no to create slack in your schedule. Research shows that people who maintain 20% slack in their schedules are more productive, more creative, and report higher life satisfaction than people who schedule themselves at 100% capacity. Building downtime and buffer time into every day. If you schedule back-to-back activities with no margin, any small disruption creates a crisis and triggers scarcity thinking. Social anti-scarcity systems.
regular, scheduled social connections that don't require constant initiation, a weekly dinner with friends, a monthly book club, an annual reunion. These create automatic belonging rather than requiring continuous effort, which is difficult when you're lonely. Communities that provide structure and expectation. Research shows people maintain friendships better in contexts with regular, predictable interaction patterns, why religious communities, sports teams, and volunteer organizations are so effective at reducing loneliness. Being strategic about social environments. If you're experiencing social scarcity, putting yourself in high-pressure social situations, like loud parties with strangers, often backfires. Lower-stakes, structured interactions work better. Let me give you a practical test right now. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, what do I feel I don't have enough of? Really think about it. Is it money, time, energy, connection, purpose, recognition, security? Whatever came to mind, that's your primary scarcity. And here's what I want you to understand. That scarcity is tunneling your vision right now. It's consuming your mental bandwidth right now. It's making you miss opportunities and make suboptimal decisions right now. You're not imagining the scarcity. Your feelings are valid, but the scarcity is distorting your perception of reality and your capacity to respond effectively. The first step to managing scarcity isn't solving it directly. It's recognizing when you're in the tunnel and understanding that your judgment is compromised in that moment. Here's what to actually do with this information. First, identify your scarcities with specificity. Not just, I need more money, but I'm $3,000 short on an emergency fund and it's causing me stress every time an unexpected expense comes up. Specific problems have specific solutions. Second, create slack wherever possible, even small amounts, not luxury, slack, resources beyond your immediate needs. This might mean saving even $50 per month to start an emergency fund, blocking even 1 hour per week for unstructured time, scheduling even one regular social interaction per week, building even 10% buffer into your project timelines. Research shows that small amounts of slack can break scarcity cycles because they provide cognitive bandwidth to see solutions. Third, build automatic systems for when scarcity strikes anyway, because it will. Automate savings so your future self doesn't have to exercise willpower. Create decision rules for when you're stressed. When I feel the urge to make a financial decision under stress, I wait 24 hours. Schedule important activities in advance so they happen regardless of how you feel. Fourth, practice recognizing your tunnel. When you feel desperate urgency, intense focus on one problem, or inability to see alternatives, these are signs you're in the tunnel. This recognition won't eliminate the cognitive impairment, but it can help you pause and either get outside perspective or default to your predetermined systems. Fifth, extend compassion to others and to yourself. When you see someone making what looks like a terrible decision, consider that they might be in a scarcity tunnel. When you catch yourself making poor choices under stress, recognize it as a cognitive impairment, not a moral failing.
Understanding scarcity isn't just about personal finance or productivity. It's about understanding a fundamental mechanism of human cognition that shapes everything from poverty policy to relationship dynamics to career decisions. When we recognize that scarcity creates cognitive impairment, we stop blaming individuals for predictable outcomes of that impairment. We start building systems that account for human psychology rather than expecting people to think clearly when their brains are being hijacked by scarcity. This applies to how we structure social safety nets, design workplaces, create financial products, build communities, and support people through difficult transitions. The scarcity parasite is powerful. It's ancient, it's deeply embedded in our psychology, but it's not invincible. Once you see it operating, once you understand its patterns, you can build a life that starves it instead of feeding it. We started with a question: what if waking up poor literally made you think worse? Now you know it's not a what if, it's scientific reality. But the scarcity parasite doesn't discriminate. It affects anyone who feels they lack something essential, whether that's money, time, connection, meaning, or security. The question isn't whether you'll experience scarcity. You will. Life is uncertain. Resources are finite. Unexpected challenges arise. The question is whether you'll recognize scarcity when it appears, whether you'll build systems to protect yourself from it, and whether you'll extend compassion to others experiencing it. Because here's what understanding scarcity really means. When you see someone making what looks like a terrible decision, taking a payday loan, staying in a toxic relationship, working themselves to exhaustion despite wealth, withdrawing when they need connection, you're probably watching the scarcity parasite at work. Not moral failure, not stupidity, not weakness, a predictable cognitive impairment caused by real or perceived lack. And when you catch yourself in the tunnel, when you notice your vision narrowing and your judgment clouding, you can remember, this is the parasite. This is the bandwidth tax. This is tunneling. And you have tools to respond.
Let me leave you with one more story. Her name is Angela. 5 years ago, she was working 3 part-time jobs, drowning in debt, living in the tunnel. She discovered research on scarcity and had a revelation. She wasn't broken or stupid. She was operating with a cognitive handicap. She couldn't eliminate her financial scarcity immediately, but she could recognize it. When she felt desperate urgency to solve a problem, she learned to pause and ask, "Am I in the tunnel right now?" Usually, the answer was yes. She started building tiny amounts of slack. She automated $25 per paycheck into savings, money she'd previously told herself she couldn't afford to save. She blocked 1 hour per week for thinking time, where she didn't respond to immediate demands. She joined a free community group to address her social isolation. None of these things solved her problems immediately, but they created just enough cognitive bandwidth to see opportunities. She noticed a job posting she would have missed before. She had the mental space to prepare for the interview instead of rushing in panicked and unprepared. She got the job. Better pay, better hours, better path forward. Last month, she messaged the researchers who had written the papers she'd read. "I'm not rich. I still struggle sometimes, but I'm out of the tunnel. I can see clearly again. And the most important thing you taught me was that when I couldn't see clearly, it wasn't my fault. It was the scarcity." That's what I want you to take from this video. The scarcity parasite is real, it's powerful, but it's not a moral judgment, it's a cognitive mechanism. And understanding it is the first step to protecting yourself and others from its effects. If this video opened your eyes to how your mind might be working against you right now, do me a favor, hit that like button so more people can discover this information. Subscribe to Paper Reality because we're going to keep exploring the hidden psychological mechanisms that shape your financial life. And next week, we're diving into why lottery winners go broke and what it reveals about the human relationship with money. Drop a comment telling me, what scarcity are you experiencing right now? Is it time, money, connection, or something else? And what's one small piece of slack you can build into your life this week? I read every comment, and I want to hear your story. Thanks for watching, and remember, when you're in the tunnel, the problem isn't you, it's the tunnel. Build slack, recognize the signs, and give yourself the compassion you'd extend to anyone else facing the same cognitive challenges. See you next week on Paper Reality.